Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to another episode of
A BJJ Marriage, where we talk about our lives as a married Jiu-Jitsu couple.
I just watched a reel, and it was the Wii song.
Oh, no.
So the Wii song is stuck in my head.
It's going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the night. All right. Well, hello, guys. Welcome back to episode 41.
With your host, Nick and Brittany.
Yeah.
In case you don't know us.
Put that in the intro next week when we record a new one, because we're going to be new belts next week. This is the last time you'll see us on camera for the podcast as a white and a blue belt, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
We have that coming up.
Apart.
Yeah. Time for a new one.
We also wore our first gis for today's episode, just for funsies.
Yep. You've had yours a lot longer, though.
Yeah. You can see I tried to patch up my knee holes, and I still have more knee holes. And I can take my finger and go straight to my knee under the patch.
Yeah. Means you trained really hard in it, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was your white belt first gi.
Yep. This is my first white belt gi, and one day it'll have a purple belt on it. Oh, my other patch falling off.
Dang.
She has more gis than me, by the way, which is
6 now.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it kind of is, actually. People just keep giving me gis. I don't really know how it happens.
Must be nice to be a woman.
Right. Well, this gi, so this one, I remember it was my first day at Fluid, and it was a no-gi day. But then my dad was like, so are you really going to start training? And I was like, yeah, I'm here now. Like, I don't have a crazy work schedule anymore, so I can be here. And he was like, well, we need to get you a gi. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to pay for a gi right now. Like, let me make sure I like it. And he's like, no, have this one. And he literally pulled it off the mannequin. And he's like, this is yours now. And I was like, thanks. So this came straight from a Fluid mannequin. And it honestly has been probably my favorite gi that I've had. It's a combat corner. And
shout out Combat Corner.
For sure. A lot of people say that their combat corner is not their favorite, but it's been mine. I don't know if it's the sentimental value behind it, where it was my first gi, or if it was just the fact that this is the only gi I had for, I think, 8 months. This is the only gi I trained in. I think I got washed 2 or 3 times a week for a really long time. I would either wear it to class and then wash it the same night, so I could wear it to the next gi class, or do no gi. Mm-hmm. And, so it has a lot of memories and a lot of different grappling techniques throughout it. Technique in the first 8 months. But
yeah, I think that's a version 6. This is like a version 4. And now they're on like version 7, which is even nicer.
It's super thin. And up until I just got my last gi that I just bought, which was my 6th gi. I think that one is my favorite so far. But this one's really nice too. So, how do you know what version it is?
I don't know.
It was established in 2007. Does that mean anything?
Right. I think it'll say on the back. It doesn't say. Wait. No, it doesn't say.
All right.
Mine says version 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have that. Anyway.
Yes.
We wore our first gis today.
Yes. Sentimental value to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super excited.
It's going to be a really fun day. I'm dreading just a little bit of it right now, though, because I have been sick all week. You can probably hear I'm a little nasally right now. And it's been a very frustrating week for me, because I really wanted to train super hard this week. Not only because I wanted to feel ready for my Shark Tank on Monday, but also because it was my last week training as a white belt. And I didn't get to do that, which really sucked. So instead, I got to let my dear husband go and tell me all about it and all of his fun rolls.
Okay, I really tried to hold back. I started and I was like, no, I can't brag about all the fun rolls I had today. Which my belt is still wet from open mat, which was many hours ago.
Yeah. I'm so salty though, because I really, really was excited to train, especially on like today being Saturday, because I knew it was an open mat, and those have typically been like a lot of people. And then, of course, Fluid Jiu-Jitsu went live today, so I just saw how many people were there, and I'm just sitting in bed in my pajamas from yesterday, and my hair's a mess, and I'm just drinking my coffee, and I'm like, this is stupid.
And then I was like, okay, bye, see you later.
Yeah, and then he left me so he could go roll, and then I just took a nap. It was stupid.
It was a good time. Lots of great rolls.
Was Kelsey there?
Yeah. We had a good roll.
Sure you did.
It was super fun.
Shout out Kelsey. I miss you.
Yes. But yeah.
Was Caitlin there? That was Caitlin, right?
I think I don't remember.
Okay.
I didn't roll with her. But I think I did see her there. But
well, shout out Caitlin too. I miss everyone. I miss all of you guys. It's been a while since I've been there.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks for you.
Yeah, because we were in Vegas. And then I did go to the women's only on Tuesday. And I got a couple light flow rolls in that day. But I didn't actually roll really hard. And I was sad about it. And then I got sick that night, basically. So it's been a long time. I'm very sad. But anyway, so we have our belt ceremony coming up. It's in 2 days from today, and I'm still all gross sounding and everything, so hopefully this clears up by then.
It's okay. I'll just roll for an hour and a half for you.
Oh, thanks.
And then I'll bring home your blue belt.
Well, my coworker, she texted me today, and she was just like, you've been working so hard for your belt, I would hate for you to not get it. I'm like, oh no, I'm getting it. It's just a matter of if I pass out before I get it or not.
Yeah, it's your first belt ceremony. How you feeling about it?
I wasn't worried until this week.
I know.
I was actually really excited about it. And now I'm honestly just dreading the cardio aspect of it. Because, I can roll a long time. And I have pretty decent stamina on the mats. I don't really get that tired very quickly. So I was really excited to train myself and test myself on that 45 minutes. But I think it's going to be rough with me not being able to breathe right now.
I'm going to pound an energy drink and give you guys hell for 45 minutes.
It's a great idea. I should do that. I should drink an energy drink.
Yeah.
That might help me.
That's what Jada said. Jada said, are you going to have an energy drink? And I was like, hell yeah. You know it.
Yeah. But I would say that me thinking about it, about the future, but what could happen, speculating on what could happen, would possibly be part of our topic today as a limiting belief. Right?
Yeah, today we're going to talk about limiting beliefs and how they impact your jiu-jitsu and your journey on the mats and even off the mats.
Yeah, I thought that it was a fitting topic today since we are getting to our belts and maybe it doesn't resonate with you personally or maybe even us. So we're going to talk in a very broad spectrum of limiting beliefs, but a lot of the times when people do end up getting promoted, even if it is just a stripe and not a belt, people tend to think that they don't deserve it and that they're not good enough at this sport.
Or that they shouldn't compete because they're not good enough.
Yeah, or the way opposite, where they're like, how have I not gotten promoted yet? This is ridiculous. I've been doing this a long time and I'm much better and blah, 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 blah. And that's also a limiting belief in a way too. So we're going to kind of dive into that.
Yeah. So why don't you start with what you believe limiting beliefs are? Get it?
Well, my belief of a limiting belief, is I think that a limiting belief is anything that stops you from your full being your full potential of you, your version of yourself. So you have the ability as a human being walking on this planet to basically take on the world with whatever you feel like you can do outside of the supernatural fighting.
No, I believe I can fly.
See, stuff like that. That's not a thing.
Well, but I don't think I can land, but I can fly. So, yeah. But all depends.
Basically, we're not talking about Marvel Universe here. That's I wouldn't even say that's a limiting belief. That's a fantasy. That's not going to come true in our lifetime, I don't think.
Well.
But.
That could be challenged.
If you have a thought in your mind that is keeping you from doing something, I think that is a limiting belief, and I think that you should just do the thing.
Yeah, that's a good description of limiting belief.
So, how would you say it?
A limiting belief for me is, like you said, anything that when you have an idea of something, sometimes there's something in the back of your head that says, you can't do that because of this. You shouldn't do that because of this. Or you're not this enough. Or these people won't appreciate that. Or things of that nature. That is what a limiting belief is. And most of the time, it's subconscious. Because you're thinking that you have this urge or this desire to do something. but it gets squashed before you even start doing it by limiting beliefs. And most of the time, like I said, that's subconscious. And
what he means by that is like the what ifs. Like, if I do this, this could possibly happen. That's kind of where he's going. Right?
Not so much, no.
Because it's like thinking about what ifs, past and future.
That's part of it, but not always the case.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely part of it, though, if you get caught up into the possibilities of everything. But that can also go in a good way for you to, what if this good thing happens? What if these great things happen? That can motivate you. Mm-hmm. So that's not necessarily always going to be a limiting belief, is where I would combat that thought.
Okay.
But limiting beliefs, like I said, a lot of times they come from the subconscious, and they come from anchors from your past of situations that are similar and have had negative outcomes that you don't want to repeat those outcomes without thinking about it. So, example of a limiting belief would be, in Jiu-Jitsu terms, if you tried to do an Americana on a white belt, and then it worked really well, and you got your Americana, and you're like, great, I know Americanas. But then you rolled with a purple belt next, and you're like, I know how to do this Americana. Let's go. And then you try to set up the Americana on the purple belt, and then they just kind of laugh at you and like reverse the position. And then all of a sudden, you're going to start to believe to yourself, I can't do Americanas on purple belts. But as you know, in Jiu-Jitsu, you can do anything to anyone as long as you set it up right or go through the proper steps, or anything's possible in Jiu-Jitsu, ultimately. But it's easy to limit ourselves by saying that's never going to work against so-and-so person, when in fact that person has most undoubtedly been caught in a Americana before in their lives, and still will continue to get caught in Americanas until they die.
And if it's a purple belt, it's been caught in a lot of Americanas before, more than likely.
Right. Yeah, so that would be, and that's a very shallow, small version of limiting beliefs, but it can go up into larger, grander things. Like the example I used earlier was, I'm not going to sign up for this competition because I'm not going to be able to win, or I'm not good in a competitive mindset. Those types of thoughts are limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. Or
anything from keeping you from your full potential.
Right. And the full potential really is unlimited also. But it could even be like, maybe you played Little League and your team lost all the time in Little League, and you think that you're just not a competitive athlete because of that. That's a step deeper of connecting past events into future limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. That might hold you back from things.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say that if you train Jiu-Jitsu, if you're listening to episode 41 of this podcast, you probably train Jiu-Jitsu. You have probably encountered a limiting belief somewhere in your journey. You more than likely are still going through some right now, depending on where you're at in your journey and what types of things that you are trying to accomplish on the mats. And like he said, with the Americana, it's pretty much any move. Like, you think you're getting really good at a move, and then there's that one person that can stuff you on it, and you're just like, oh, I can't get that person. But that's a limiting belief, because as long as, like he said, you can set it up right, you can probably more than likely get it on that person eventually.
Mm-hmm. Like, I know at Fluid, a limiting belief for everybody in the gym is you can't choke Dave.
Yeah.
But I've seen it happen before.
You can choke Dave. It's just a matter of if he'll tap or not.
Yes. But yeah, that's another example of cultural limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. Of our community thinks that this is not possible. But there's always that one person that rises up and challenges that idea. And a lot of times, it's the quote from, I think it might be Steve Jobs. Fact check me. Nick, look it up. But
that's an inside joke for this.
The quote is, the only people that can change the world are the ones crazy enough to think they can actually do it. Something along those lines. But yeah, it's challenging those limiting beliefs.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is a lot of limiting beliefs in a lot of different scenarios. It just happens to be that Jiu-Jitsu kind of consumes our lives.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we see it the most.
And it's a jiu-jitsu podcast. And
yeah. But I mean, like I said earlier, is that I feel like a lot of people tend to get what's called imposter syndrome.
For promotions, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say imposter syndrome is probably like the lead limiting belief in the jiu-jitsu community, I would say.
I think the number one limiting belief in jiu-jitsu is before people even start, people thinking that they aren't strong enough, they aren't in shape enough, and they aren't flexible enough.
Yeah, that could be the first one. So like people who don't train but are thinking about training, those are the like step one. Then the step two is just not thinking that you're good enough ever.
Yeah.
I saw a really funny post on
Absolutely.
BJJ Fanatics and Facebook. If you're not in the group, you should join it because there's some really cool stuff in there. But it's typically a lot of people just like sharing a move or asking for advice or just a very good community of people just talking about jiu-jitsu together.
Or they take dick pic pictures of their stripes.
Yeah. But there's someone who asked like, oh, I'm a 2-stripe white belt and some days I really feel like I have this, and then the next day I just feel like I suck. And like, how do you guys deal with this emotional roller coaster of jiu-jitsu? And someone that we know, she goes to Neutral Ground. Shout out Mariah, but she had made the comment to him in the post, and she was like, "Yeah, so for about 6 months or so, you're gonna really feel like you're terrible at this. It takes about 6 months to a year to get better, and then you start getting better." And then you realize 6 months later how bad you sucked. And then you realize 6 months after that how bad you sucked at that 6-month point. And then that just keeps on continuing until you die.
Absolutely. Uh-huh.
But, like, I would say that is also a limiting belief because you're putting yourself in this box like, oh, I suck at this. I'm so terrible at this. I'm never going to get better at this. And that's actually why people quit at white belt because they just think that it's too hard or they're just never going to get better than what they're at.
Also, why the blue belt blues is so prevalent, because you stop learning new stuff, and you have to develop the stuff you already know.
Yeah.
But that's very difficult to push through mentally.
Yes. I haven't been there yet, but we'll see.
We'll see.
This stops, like, recording around episode 80 or so.
Yeah.
You know what happened.
This is the Nickley Jiu-Jitsu podcast.
No, that's not going to happen. My dad would never let me quit. But
He would probably kill me.
I mean, that's kind of just what happens throughout your journey is you put yourself in this box, but then you have to just push yourself outside of those boundaries and know that future you would be so proud of you from 6 months from now. And that's where stripes come in because you need to see, it's almost like a reward in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people say that it's the motivation to keep people to stay, not necessarily, I don't know how to word it. Stripes are not just given, they're earned. And so
we have a whole episode on that.
Yeah. Yes. But a lot of people like need the stripes. They need that physical validation because they need to see that they're progressing and know. Because when you're just on the mats every day, you don't really realize how good you're getting until you think back to 6 months ago and you're like, oh my God, I could kill that version of me.
Yeah, that's why taking video of yourself every now and then or at competition or just like open mats or whatever, you look back at that footage and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, like why would I do that? Why did I move in that direction? That is so stupid of me.
Yes.
But like that's what happens with this blue belt. Like everyone keeps asking, they're like, oh, how excited are you for your blue belt? I'm like, I am. I really am excited. Like, don't get me wrong. But it's not like I'm just going to tie a blue belt around my waist and I'm going to be a totally different grappler.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
It's called a circle with a bigger circle and a bigger circle, and they alternate colors.
Oh.
Target.
No. It's not like I'm just going to automatically be a totally different and fantastic grappler once I put on a blue belt. It's going to take time because basically a blue belt. So the reason that there's the 5 belts is because they get darker each time. And the purpose that I've heard, the analogy of it, is that the more wear and tear that you put into your training and that you put into your belt that you're currently wearing, it gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier until it's black belt and it just can't be washed anymore. Like you now have that in you. And so a blue belt is really just a dirtier white belt.
Excuse you.
It is.
Yeah, I know.
It's just a practiced white belt. How do you say it? You say a black belt is just a
20-stripe white belt.
Yep. And that's how it goes.
Uh-huh.
So I am excited for my blue belt, but I know 6 months from now, I will actually be a blue belt. I will not be a blue belt on Monday. I will be an actual blue belt.
No, you will be a blue belt on Monday.
Physically.
That's a limiting belief, what she just said. By the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so I didn't even tell you what Tracy said to me last night, because I have been freaking out about the Shark Tank just because of my sickness and not feeling the greatest and wanting to thinking that I'm going to pass out. Limiting belief. I probably won't pass out, but I just feel like I will. So I was texting Tracy and Ellie last night, and I was just like, you guys have both been through this. Like, is 45 minutes really that long? Like, is it really that big of a deal? Especially after not training for 2 weeks. And Tracy said the sweetest thing. She was just like, you've already earned your blue belt. The Shark Tank is not about showing whether you're a blue belt or not. It's just the passage to get there. Mm-hmm. She's like, so don't worry about it. She's like, everyone will go light with you. It's going to be great. No, she was like, but you've already earned it, so it doesn't matter.
Yes, you have.
And I was like, oh, oh, thanks.
That's super cute.
I still think I'm going to pass out.
I don't think so.
So stay tuned for next week. I'll let you know.
I love rolling forever.
Yeah.
I don't think I took a break today, open mat. And then I rolled. I think it was like an hour, 25 minutes. I just rolled.
I just left my wife at home sick, dying alone, and I went to go roll.
Yep. Everybody dies, so.
No, I'm giving him shit. I don't care. I'm glad he went. I would have felt guilty if I made him stay home with me. Because I didn't even want to stay home with me. I wanted to go.
She sent me this snap. It had the ugliest filter on it. It scared me a little bit. It reminded me of the accountant in Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
With like that upside down face. And she was like, it was funny.
I captioned it my face when I'm realizing that it was my last day to roll as a white belt and I couldn't even be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, more about limiting beliefs. You did bring up promotions and belts. And
I talked a lot, sorry.
Yeah,
I just kind of went off on a tangent.
That's fine. Happy wife, happy life, right? So, yeah, you talked about promotions and imposter syndrome, and that can be a huge limiting belief mentally. But, like, jiu-jitsu wise, you're still going to put out the same game unless you're beating yourself up of whether or not you should deserve whatever promotion you got from your coach. But there was an awesome article that I just read from Josh Janis at the Gentle Art Lifestyle blog about
I read that one too.
Promotions, yes. And he talks about it. I'll put a link to that in the comments so you guys can read it, or in the description. But
and if you're in the Wisconsin area, he's doing another Gentle Art Lifestyle camp. December
11th and 12th?
Yes.
It's called Fire and Water. We're going to do Wim Hof breathing. We're going to do polar plunges. We're going to have a bonfire. The schedule looks awesome. There's fantastic instruction. You can see us as a blue and purple belt. I pointed at our names wrong.
It's going to be in Bayview, Wisconsin, if you're interested. We'll put a link to that, too. And then if you can't make that one, that's okay. There's another one in February.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Anyways, the blog was talking about promotions are never up to the student. It's always up to the coach. And they're the ones that see you putting in the work and see when you deserve it based on the standards that they like to uphold.
Yep. And I like how it basically said, like, who are you to decide whether or not your coach gives out a stripe or not, or a belt or not.
Most likely your coach has been doing this for many more years than you have. And they know when you have reached that level. And they're going to promote you accordingly.
Yes. I liked his article, though, because it, like, really puts you in your place. Like, you are so small in this jiu-jitsu world right now that you have not been training for 20 years like your coach has. You have not been training for 10 to 30 years like your coach has. You have only been here for a couple of years. You only know the surface level of everything. So who are you to judge when and when not promotions happen to you or to anyone else? And I thought that was very, like, yeah, you're right. Like, who am I to judge? I don't know shit.
Yeah, so it was a good article. I'll post both of those in the description of the video. The camp and the article. But yeah, so imposter syndrome, as you were talking about, that can be a huge limiting belief. But also with promotions and rank, it can be a big limiting belief for competition. Every time we say limiting belief, by the way, take a shot.
Oh, God. You're dead at this point, sorry. It was nice knowing you.
Yeah, I'll take a shot. But no, I'll bring up an example. Personally, Masters Worlds was last weekend, and I was thinking about competing, but one of the reasons that I didn't sign up is based on my rank. I didn't know if I felt comfortable going into it as a 4-stripe blue belt, about knowing that I was getting a purple belt very soon after. And I didn't know if I went through it and if it was too easy for me, which I'm sure it wouldn't have been easy. I'm just going through that mental exercise of, if it was too easy, was it worth it for me to go there? But then also, if it was too hard and I just got like fucked up by competition, would I feel like I still deserve my purple belt after the competition? And part of me, I didn't want to be a sandbagger, but then I also didn't want to just like lose it all and then not feel like I should get the promotion. And Josh had mentioned to me, he was like, "Did you read the article?" I was like, "Well, yeah." And he was like, "Well, then there's all I have to say on that." And I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, we've witnessed that too, though, right? Like, we've seen 4-stripe belts, like any belt. Like, we've seen it happen with blue and with white people.
Whoa.
Blue people, white people, no, belts. We've seen 4-stripers go out there for
all belts matter.
One last competition.
What? I threw you off.
Oh my goodness. So they have went out there with 4 stripes on their belt, knowing that they were going to get promoted. Like, their belt ceremony was in process. They just wanted to do one last competition. Maybe to sandbag, maybe just get the experience. I don't really know. But we've seen it happen where they go out there and they do lose. And every time that happens, because I've seen it happen more than once, I always wonder what goes through their brain. Like, man, why am I getting my next belt if I can't even beat the people at my level right now?
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I don't know if that's how they felt. It wasn't my place to ask them. But I know that if I was in that position, that's probably how I would feel. And again, that's a limiting belief that you would have to probably work on, because your coach decides and not you.
Exactly. And we know that competition is always different. It's always, some people have good days, some people have bad days. Depends on preparation, health. There's so many factors that go into competition outside of just what rank you are, that you can't pigeonhole your entire game based on what rank you are, because then competition wouldn't be a competition. It would be who's been training longer. Okay, stand on the podium.
Yeah. Well, I think about it this way too, and it's something that's kind of been going through my brain a lot, especially with each stripe that I get, is there's only 4 stripes to a belt, right? Like, you get 4 stripes and then you get your next belt. Your 5th stripe is the belt.
Well, I've seen some 5-stripe white belts.
Pete.
Yeah.
But think about that. There's only 4 stripes that you can get before you are promoted to a new belt. And there are way more than 4 different types of body types and people out there in the world. Like, your 2-stripe white belt could be on a totally different level than someone else's 2-stripe white belt version.
And 3-stripe blue belts don't matter.
No, not at all. Shout out Josh Janis. I am dreading the day I get my 3rd stripe on my blue belt, and then I have to hear it for 6 months.
Joe just got his 3rd stripe on his blue belt, and
yes!
I told him he didn't matter.
No, we have to tell him it's a purple belt. He won't even know.
Eventually.
Joe is colorblind, so I always ask him, like, "Are you blue or purple? How do you even know, bro?" But
and when we give him a purple belt, we're gonna give him a darker blue belt. See if he notices.
You're not supposed to say that.
I thought he knew already.
I don't think he does.
Never mind. I was kidding.
But anyway, there are a lot of different 4-stripe white belts out there. So we're going to try to get our friend Adam Conley on here eventually. Hopefully next week if he's free, because he's the one getting promoted with us.
Yeah.
Well, he's getting promoted with us, which means he is a 4-stripe white belt. He can murder me. Like, literally murder me. This dude is like a walking muscle.
What? What?
But
that's not a good description.
He's like 7 feet tall and like 200 pounds of just solid muscle.
Okay, anyway, that's a better description.
He's a walking muscle. But anyway, he's a 4-stripe white belt. I'm a 4-stripe white belt. We also have a couple other 4-stripe white belts at the gym, and we are all not the same. We all have our own game. We all have our own techniques. We all have our own style, but we're not the same, even though by rank we are. So it's really hard And this is why me, myself included, has to try to constantly convince myself that, like, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't compare yourself to other people. This is your own journey. And just because you're a 4-stripe white belt and that person is also a 4-stripe white belt, or that person's a 2-stripe white belt and they can murder you, bro. It doesn't matter because you're going through your own jiu-jitsu journey.
Yes.
And there's only 4 stripes to give out.
Yeah. And it's up to the coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so you were talking about different levels of people's games and how that's totally different in competition in the gym. And where I was going with that with limiting beliefs is don't let your rank tell you whether or not you should compete. Mm-hmm. Because that can limit you.
Unless you're no stripe white belt, I would say those ones should probably not compete yet. There's just a really high chance of injury. That's the only reason I say it. I don't think it's because you can't do it. I'm sure you can. It's just there's a much higher percentage chance of injury as a no-stripe white belt because you don't really have any foundation in you yet. And I just would highly recommend not doing that.
But there's always an exception to every rule.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Devin was a no-stripe white belt.
He might have been.
But he also was a fantastic wrestler. So
right.
It's not like he's never competed before.
Exactly that. Yeah. But yeah, other limiting beliefs. I did want to bring up just techniques in general, because as you come up as a white belt, you're shown way more techniques than your white belt brain can handle. And a lot of times in drilling, you try something and it doesn't work. And if you let that one experience you had with that specific technique hold you off from trying that technique for like any period of time, obviously it's never going to work for you. And your limiting belief there is your first experience with it was bad, so I should not do that. This is not part of my game. It's not good for my body type. Which, sure, that can be a factor in that technique for you, but I guarantee you there's a way for you to make any technique that you've ever seen in jiu-jitsu work for you.
I agree. And I can resonate a lot with that.
Yeah.
2 moves in specific. I don't even need to go into super detail about it, but basically there was 2 separate moves throughout my white belt career that I horrifically failed at the first couple of times that I tried, and it made me never want to do them ever again.
What's that?
The scissor sweep and the X choke from guard.
Oh, okay.
But I actually just relearned the X choke from guard this week, so.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the other part of it too. You're going to come back, you're going to see it a year from now or a couple years, or you'll go to a seminar and you'll see one detail, and all of a sudden this technique is going to work for you like magic in the future. Mm-hmm.
Same with deep half. I never thought that I would like deep half until we went to the Jeff Glover seminar.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
But that's limiting belief, thinking that you're never going to like a move, and then you do.
Yeah.
It's such a broad topic. Like, there's so much that you could go into, because it goes into basically your way of life and how you see everything around you and how you interpret everything around you.
Right. And to like what you were saying earlier is like you were bringing up like superheroes and like there's things that are just not possible. But how are we to know what is in this whole entire universe that we have zero awareness about? You know, we, like our coaches, we are not the judge or the creator or whatever you might believe in. And we are not omnipotent beings that know for a fact that things are impossible. Now, there's a very strong argument that things are not very possible, but that they aren't possible in general. I believe that anything is possible. We'll never know some things that are or are not possible, and we'll never know some of the things that are in the cosmos that we will just never experience. But there could be another planet where people are bending fire with their brains. There could be another planet where people can fly. There could be other areas of time and space where people learn how to teleport or do whatever the hell they want to do. Or there could be other like energies that we just don't understand in our physical body that can control certain things that we just have zero awareness of. The amount of things that we don't know is way vastly larger than the things we think we do know.
Like jiu-jitsu.
Like jiu-jitsu, but like on a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
And it's all about perception too. So, like, she said, you're not going to fly. And I was like, well, I can fly. I just can't land. It's when you
Not
start...
safely, at least.
Exactly. But there could be times where I could land safely. Like, it's possible. If we set it up properly and everything was perfect.
Where's the height and the velocity and what kind of thing are you trying
Right.
to land on?
How long are you on a fly?
It's all these factors that go into it. It's not just
Right.
like, I'm going to fly and then I'm going to land.
Right. But that's what limiting beliefs hold us back from, because it stems at this one point, but we know that everything in life is not just one thing. There's so many things that are into it. So it could be possible, whatever you think that is impossible. But it might not be possible in the exact way you imagine it. But you change up a whole other things. I don't know what sentence that was. Squirrel! But you change up a whole bunch of other things, and all of a sudden that belief that you thought was impossible is not possible for you.
Yeah. That's a fun way to put it.
Yeah. But I really do believe anything is possible in life. And I believe that anybody can do anything. Depends on how much time you want to put into it. Depends on how much energy you want to put into it. Depends on how much pain you can withhold. Depends on a lot of your character. But I believe with the right strategy, with the right support, and with the right mindset, anyone can accomplish anything. And that's my job as a life coach, helping people realize that.
Yeah. So how would you say that, let's go back to Masters Worlds. How would you say that you helped your client get ready with his limiting beliefs for Masters Worlds as a life coach?
Sure. So I did have a client that I helped prepare mentally for competition. And I wouldn't say that he had that much limiting beliefs, but he understood that he was out of his depth and he wanted to prepare as much as possible. And he already had a plan to prepare physically. And he wanted accountability to make weight, and then a strategy to prepare himself mentally for competition. And there was a point in time, though, where he was questioning if he was going to be able to do it. But what we did is we reframed his mindset from, should I be doing this, to what am I going to get out of this experience?
You should make that as its own separate program in your My Odyssey. So rather than someone like...
I do have that in the works.
Do you?
Yes.
Where it's just going to be like a temporary thing, like getting ready for competition, I'll be your support.
Exactly that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is my plan. So if you are planning on competing, and the number one thing that we get from, I see in Facebook groups everywhere, is I'm competing next weekend. What should I do? I'm competing soon, or I signed up for my first competition.
You're competing next weekend, and you're just now asking what to do. You're probably not very well prepared.
Right, but that's because we know that the week leading out from competition, that's when your emotions and your anxiety really hits you, and you're like, holy shit, I'm competing next weekend, and this person's going to try to kill me.
Yeah. On a world scale, too. Like
right.
When we were at Worlds, I mean, if you listen to our last episode, my dad and Dave both talked about those whirlwind of emotions that they felt. And I remember, like, Dave was sitting on the ground after the very first day, and he was going 2 days later, and he was just sitting there, and he looked like he was ready to cry. And I was like, Dave, what's going on? He's like, I just had to tell myself those were black belts. I'm not going against black belts. I was like, you're not going against black belts. But, like, that emotion just really, like, took over. And that's what it does with competition. Like, I'm not trying to single you out, Dave. Of course, we love you. But, like, everyone goes through that when they are competing. And if you don't, you're a robot.
Or you're very comfortable, or you're mentally strong.
A robot. A jiu-jitsu robot.
Yeah. But the program that I have is designed to have you start that process. So it's not the week of. It's a couple months leading up to competition. You are dealing with these emotions. You're dealing with your feelings. You're dealing with expectations. And you're dealing with your game plan beforehand. So that by the time competition comes up, you've already worked through these emotions and these feelings. Instead of it all hitting you at once, you've already taken care of it. And you're just ready to execute at that point.
Yeah, I would say just going off of Worlds, maybe not all competitions in general, but just an IBJJF program, whether it's Jiu-Jitsu Con or Pan Ams or just Worlds Masters, any of those, I mean, those are a much larger scale. And I think that people like me who were like, oh yeah, there's a world's competition coming up, and then someone would be like, are you competing? No. Like, why would I do that? I only do local competitions. Like, that's it.
That's a limiting belief.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I had that up until I just went. And now that I went, I'm kind of like, why am I scared? Like, what about this is terrifying me to the point where I think that I will never do this? And it was really cool because we just watched a video, and it was about limiting beliefs. It's about a brown belt from Pennsylvania that I follow on social media, and she did a live chat about limiting beliefs and talking about how they can really get into the way of your training. And the one that really stuck out to me was, how can you ever expect to be a world champion in jiu-jitsu if you don't think that you're enough? And that's something that's like really been resonating with me for the last couple days, because it's not like I ever had the imagination of me being a world champion. Like, I'm a white belt. That's not something that has ever really crossed my mind up until I started like training more. And it's not even that I'm working towards being the best or world champion or on that number one podium, but it's definitely like, okay, I've never even considered going to worlds because I'm not good enough. I am just a white belt. I am a girl in this sport. Like, why would I do that? But after hearing that, it's been really like hitting me where I'm just thinking, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I challenge myself to go outside of my comfort zone and go compete, not even just at a tournament, but at a world's tournament? And it's not even really just to test your jiu-jitsu. It's more to like find yourself and figure out where you stand in your comfort of your life, I guess. And I like being outside of my zone.
Yeah, that's one thing that I always get out of competition is you really find out who you are in those moments in competition. Because you'll see people that go out and they're close to something, but they won't put that little extra oomph into it, and they'll lose the match because of it. But then you'll see people that go out there, maybe even if they're down, but you see their heart in that match, and it proves more so what kind of person they are.
Putting their all out there.
Right, whether they win or lose.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you lose, because you proved that you can go beyond your limits. And I think that that's not even for anyone else. It's more for you. And you should be proud of that. And if you've never competed before, I'm sorry that you probably can't like relate on a level that we're talking about right now. But I know that when my dad just did Worlds last weekend, he was posting about his emotions and his ups and downs that he felt with it. And did you see what Justin said on it? Justin, he had made a comment, and it wasn't verbatim, but he basically was just like, you're an inspiration. I'm so happy that you did that for yourself, and you've really made me want to compete now. I've never competed before. He's a blue belt. He's like, I've never competed before, but watching you take that extra step makes me now want to get out of my comfort zone. And I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome.
And it's not like we're just telling you, like, go compete. You need to compete. I think you should. I think you should get that experience. But if you're not comfortable with it, I think you should try to figure out a way to make yourself comfortable with something that makes you uncomfortable, even if it's not competing.
Yeah, there's steps. Competition is a big step, but there's things you can do. You can amp it up in training. You can ask somebody, hey, would you like to do an in-house competition match with me?
Yep.
You can take up my mental jiu-jitsu competition prep program.
Yep. Well, I've had 2 females at Fluid now tell me that they're thinking about competing, and they've asked if I would train with them. And I'm always open for that. I'm always down for that. And if you ever are trying to get yourself to push yourself to get out of that comfort zone, to get out of your box, and you want to compete, especially if you're a female, like I'm reaching out more to females than I am to males, because I don't have the natural ability to go on a competition style level with someone like Nick.
Yeah, you
do. I don't have the physical capability of keeping up with a 180-pound man. I just don't.
Oh, you call me fat?
That's not a limiting belief. That's a fact. But that doesn't mean that I can't give my all when they're giving their all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a female and you want to compete, but you're scared to, or you don't know what the first steps are, or you're just even thinking about it, I will help you. I will work with you, because I'm working with 2 now. Because I think it's good to get yourself out of that. But
it is fun.
Thinking that you're not good enough, thinking that you can't do it, thinking that
you're too old, you're going to get injured.
Yep. thinking just all of those things that could be stopping you from, and I'm going to keep using competition as an example because it's just the easiest thing to relate to, but if you're fighting battles in your head about why you shouldn't compete, you probably just never will.
Or why you should or shouldn't go to class.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is a big one. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm too tired to go to class, or I'm too this, or I haven't done enough of this. Mm-hmm. Those are excuses.
Well, those are limiting beliefs.
Yeah, which is an excuse.
Mm-hmm. Like Natalie said in her talk, is that you're not an exhausted person. Like people who just say, I'm tired all the time, or I just can't do this because I'm too exhausted, or I'm just so tired and I don't want to go, or things like that, like those limiting beliefs that get in your way. You're not an exhausted person. You're just experiencing exhaustion because you haven't trained your brain out of that yet. Mm-hmm. And like he said, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. And when you're feeling stuff like that, that means your body is trying to tell you something that you need to change. Anytime you're feeling down about things. Mm-hmm. So if you listen closely enough to your body, it'll tell you what it's looking for. It'll tell you if it's looking for a little bit more sleep. It'll tell you if it's looking for more sustenance, more healing, to expend more energy. That's what it tells me all the time. It says, you have too many zoomies, go get that out. And now I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. But I mean, your emotions are always, your body is always talking to you. Mm-hmm. And if you just take the time to listen.
Yeah, physically and emotionally.
Yeah. Take the time to listen to what your body is trying to communicate with you. You'll probably be much happier in your life and your choices that you're going to make because you're more so listening to what you need rather than the expectations of others. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of limiting beliefs too, is the expectation of others.
Yeah. Here's my viewpoint on the expectations of others. It doesn't fucking matter. That's my viewpoint.
What he said.
Nobody gives a shit.
But I mean, I would say, and I haven't taken a poll on this, I haven't done a research paper on this, so don't quote me or anything, but I would say that one of the biggest problems for people who want to compete is that they don't think that they are good enough because people expect them to do well, or people expect them to do bad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you'll never know unless you put yourself out there, how it will actually end up.
And it doesn't really matter what they think.
Right. And that's the number one thing right there. It never matters what other people think. So even though we're married and we're very close with each other, it depends on how much... See? It doesn't matter. It depends on how much I want to value her opinion and what she is trying to share with me whenever we're communicating. I don't know why that sounded so robotic. But it's on me. It's my responsibility to place value in what she's saying. And it's not up to her to put value into me of how I should feel. So if she's trying to make me feel a certain way, I'm the one responsible for if I actually want to feel that way or not. And because I care about what she's saying to me a lot, I don't put any sort of walls up. So I take it in and process it as the way that she is giving it to me. But there are times where there's things where I don't agree with, and it's just like, I don't feel that way, and I don't want to feel that way. So it's up to me. It's my responsibility to feel that way. But you can extrapolate that to your lowest level relationship, or especially to people that you don't know, or social media, where you just put your true, authentic self out there, and there's always going to be haters. There's always going to be doubters. There's always going to be people that are like, why are they doing this? Mm-hmm. But guess what? Their opinions really have no effect on your life, and it doesn't matter what they say, what they expect, what they think the outcome is going to be. As long as you are being congruent with yourself and what you want and understanding your values and why you're doing the things you're doing, you're going to be all right. They're never going to just hold you down and stop you from doing whatever you want to do, as long as you're consistent enough.
Yeah. So basically, you're just trying to say, like, you're in charge of your own emotions.
Absolutely.
Like, emotions can definitely come in waves, and we both agreed today after listening to that sometimes they can be big emotions, and other ones are a little bit smaller, and some of them are just kind of there. But it's all up to you. It depends on how you want to react to those emotions.
Mm-hmm. How you respond and how much you regulate those emotions, how much you try to stifle them, or how much you let them flow through you.
Yeah. Like, having emotions is a natural human ability. Like, that's just something that we all have and we feel. And it's up to you if you want to have and feel them. Or if you just want to ignore them. Throw them in a corner and say, screw you, I'm not crying.
Yeah. A really good analogy for that is another Josh Janis analogy. But
it's like he's a really big influence in our lives or something.
Imagine that all your thoughts and feelings are coming through a water hose. Okay? And your hose is your feelings and everything, okay? But if you put a kink in the hose by trying to stifle it, or there's a really big rock that stops the water flow, what happens to the other stuff that's trying to flow? The pressure gets higher and higher and higher and higher. And you have to carry more and more weight, more and more water. And once you are able to loosen up those rocks that are holding it back, or unkink the kinks in the hose, then your thoughts and emotions are going to flow better and more fluid. And you're not going to... Exactly. But we're not at fluid right now. But you're not going to build up pressure internally based on trying to hold things back or hold yourself back with any sort of limiting belief from you or from society, from other people.
Yeah. So really it's trying to figure out what your body is trying to tell you, and the emotional layers of what you're trying to feel. And then it's up to you on how your interpretation is of those feelings and those emotions. And then the thing that Natalie left in her video that I thought was really telling was just saying that once you are aware of what's creating these emotions and how you're going to react to them, you then have a choice of what you're going to do with that information that your body is now giving you. And once you have a choice, the world is in your hands.
Your oyster.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with that choice. And it's just a matter of how you decide to handle it.
Yeah, and that's where I say that we're responsible for how we feel. Because everything we do in life is a choice, whether it's a conscious choice or unconscious choice. And once you build awareness to it, you can start to decide what kind of choices you want.
Yep.
But if you have no awareness, it's always going to be an unconscious choice.
Yep. And I keep bringing up Natalie because these are not my original thoughts. These are things that I stemmed off of her video, so I'm going to keep giving her the credit on it. But she also said, like, you have to give yourself the permission to have the beliefs that are true to you. And then going off of what Nick just said, whatever you are not consciously changing, you are subconsciously inhabiting. So you need to be aware of what your body is trying to tell you, what emotions you're trying to feel, and then you have the choice of how you're going to react to those. And then once you are consciously aware of that, you're no longer subconsciously falling into the trap or the hole or whatever you were in before that you're now trying to get out of, because you're now you're now consciously changing your perspective.
Yeah, there's one thing I love to say to people when they're complaining about things, because it's one thing when somebody complains about something that just happened and, they're just trying to vent, and it's like, okay, yeah, I feel you, man, that really sucks. But when you start hearing that same complaint over and over, my number one thing that I ask them is, okay, well, what do you want to do about it? And half the time they're like, what do you mean?
I have to do something?
And it's like, well, you're complaining about this, and this is not the first time you're complaining about it, so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Are you going to make it better for yourself? Are you going to remove it from your life? Are you going to learn how to handle it better? Because I tell you what, if you're just going to sit here and bitch about it over and over, you're probably not going to, it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
And you're going to push other people away. Responsibility.
I would say that could be coincided with injuries in Jiu-Jitsu too. Like, a lot of people, they like to complain about their injuries that they have, and like, oh, I'm not going to do that because of this. And it's like, well, did you go get it checked out? No. And I'm totally guilty of this, just so you know. Like, not putting anyone else up, probably, except for myself. But
sure, I can see that.
If you have an injury and you're constantly complaining about it, or you're not rolling because of it, because you have the limiting belief that if you roll there, you get more hurt, or it's just never going to heal, things like that.
Yes, trying to avoid things.
Yep. And instead of dealing with it, you're just kind of complaining about it and just being like, oh, well, this hurts again, so I'm just not going to go. And it's like when people ask you, did you go to the doctor? No. Or Did you go to the doctor? Yes. Okay, what'd they say? To stay off of it? Like,
yeah.
That's pretty much how it goes. And it's really hard to get yourself out of that mindset. But you have to, if you want to stop complaining about that injury, you need to take care of that injury.
Yeah. And that's one of the main reasons, though, that I say, what do you want to do about it? Is because it puts responsibility on them instead of taking the advice that they're getting from multiple people. Because a lot of times people, when they complain about something, you're most likely not the only person they're complaining to. And some people are really good at just being empathetic and listening and helping them vent. Other people are going to offer advice from what they think is best. And then all of a sudden you've got 4 different things that you can do about something. And then let's say you pick one of them and then it doesn't work out well. Now it's easy for you to blame that person on why it's not better. And then you go to the other 3 people and complain more about you tried something and it didn't work and it's their fault that it's in a worse spot now.
The blame game.
The blame game, yes.
You always feel, I feel like it's part of the human mind to just always want to blame something or someone for your problems.
Right, and that's where I never blame other people. I'm always responsible for where I was in my life, what happened to me, and how I responded to things. But that's taken lots of practice. And what I was saying is that's why I always ask people, what do they want to do about it? Because then if they ask about a certain path and I actually have some valid input for them, then I can help them. But then again, it's their decision to go down that path.
Right. Have you ever made a mistake at work?
No.
Like, at work, specifically at work. And it's on you. It's probably your fault. But you're going down this trail trying to figure out where it went wrong and who you can put the blame on instead. And maybe that's subconscious. It's not like you're just looking actively to blame someone, but you're trying to find all these different routes before you admit that it's actually your fault. Because I just went through that a couple weeks ago where I made a mistake at work, and for a while I didn't notice that it was my mistake. I was blaming other people, other companies for messing up stuff, but really it stemmed back to step 1 on something that I did wrong, and I owned it. And it took me a little bit to realize it because I still tried to make up the excuses like, oh, well, I did do that, but I also covered my bases and I tried to make sure that it was going to be okay. But really, it ended up being my fault. And I took ownership of that. And I was like, hey, this is what I did. I really messed up. Here's how I'm going to fix it. So it was like, here's the issue. This is how I'm going to respond to it. And this is how I'm going to make it better.
Yeah. And don't you feel way better just like owning up and be like, this was me.
Yep.
Now I'm going to do this. Instead of like, there's always, when you push blame, there's always that part of you that looks back and you're like, are they ever going to figure that out and then come back to me?
Yeah. Yeah. But that was me taking control of my own emotions. Because it was really eating me up that night too. Because my boss had already left before I could talk to him about it. Because I figured it out after he had left the building. So all night I was stressing out about how I had to talk to him and tell him that this was my fault. And it ended up not being that bad because I took ownership of it and I was able to fix the problem.
Yeah, and your limiting belief there was the fact that it was not going to be okay.
Yeah.
You had thought to yourself, this is terrible. And
it was the end of the world.
I know. And then this is one way I'd really love to combat limiting beliefs is I asked her, okay, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? And then she's like, oh. I was like, are you going to get fired? Are you never going to be able to do this again? Are you going to die? And she's like, no, he just might be upset. And I was like, okay, how long is he going to be upset for? Today. It's like, okay, it's not that bad. Just get through it.
Yeah. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Makes you stronger as a person, and it opens up your perspective on the world quite a bit more. So that's a real life scenario, not a jiu-jitsu scenario, and it just happened.
Yeah. So. But jiu-jitsu and life are so analogous.
Yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but with any sort of limiting belief you might have, just ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Like if you're thinking about competing and you think you're not good enough, well, what's the worst that can happen? You lose a match and you learn something. Okay.
Well, I think the worst that could happen is you do get injured.
Well, yes.
That's the reason people don't like to compete is because they're afraid of getting injured. But even if you were to get injured, what's the worst thing that comes out of it?
You're not going to die.
You have to take a couple weeks off.
Right.
You might have a hospital bill.
Plus, it's not the most likely outcome either.
Right. Like, the chances of it are super slim. I mean, grappling industries has like 1,000 competitors every time, and I think like one person gets injured on average.
Yeah, we only saw one severe arm break. Remember that guy?
Yes, but I didn't know you were going to go right into that.
Well, I mean,
yeah, it does happen. Things happen. It's a combat sport. What do you expect?
But you're more likely to get hurt driving to the competition.
For real. You get in your car every single day, and if you don't drive, you get on a bus, or you get on a bike, or you do something that the chances of something terrible happening are probably worse than you competing in jiu-jitsu, where you know how to defend yourself. Because you don't go into a jiu-jitsu competition not knowing anything. You go in with a little bit of a base knowledge. You go in with a little bit of defense. So it's not like you're just going to sit there and be like, hit me! Because that's not even jiu-jitsu.
I was going to say, that's wrong sport.
Exactly. Like, no one goes into a jiu-jitsu competition not knowing jiu-jitsu. Like, you know something. So, your chances of getting injured are slim to none.
Yeah. But yeah, challenging the belief with what's worst going to happen, or what's the most likely thing that's going to happen, or what is my best outcome that can happen. And, you know, it's also not good to get trapped up in possibilities, but you want to combat the belief with what is most likely.
I don't want to get stuck in the speculation, because that's
exactly
a not fun place to be.
Yeah, and then that puts you down the road of procrastination.
Yep.
And then that builds upon itself.
Snowball.
Right.
It's to be really bad.
Yeah. If you can't tell, I'm super passionate about this stuff. And it is the career that I'm building at My Odyssey. Yeah. If you're interested in talking more, let me know.
But think about what I want. If you don't get anything else out of this episode, I just want you to take a second, pause the video, rewind, do whatever you need to do. Just think about the one limiting belief in your life right now and what you can do to change your perspective on it. And whether that is, maybe it's I'm not enough. That seems to be the biggest one for a lot of people. Or maybe it's something along the lines of, I can't even think of another one right now.
Anything you think is impossible is really possible. That's the biggest one that I find is people have a certain goal that they want for their lives, but they think that it's just out of their reach. But I'll tell you, anything that you are really passionate about is within your reach. Depends on how much you want to work for it.
Yeah. And we all have them, so I don't want you to sit there and be macho and be like, I have no limiting beliefs, I'm perfect. Because you have something. You have something that you're wanting to work on. And maybe it's a positive thing. But you should take a second, think about what your limiting belief is in your life and how you can work on it to make it better, to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think we can leave it at that, right? That's a good way to end it.
Yeah, but like I said, specifically, this is what I do for a career as a life coach, is help people get past their limiting beliefs, stay motivated, develop strategies to get to where they want to be, and then hold them accountable to it.
Yeah. A little bit of personal experience, so not jiu-jitsu related, but before I met Nick, I was probably not the nicest person ever. I was pretty bitchy, and I was very opinionated, and I just had a lot kind of working against me, and I blamed a lot of it on my upbringing, on certain things. And I mean, I had really good friends, and I was a really decent human being and everything. It's not like I was a criminal.
Was a decent human being.
But I've changed a lot. Like, my perspective and my mindset has changed a lot since I met Nick, which is going on almost 8 years soon. But when I first met Nick, I was a very unhappy person. I saw the negative and everything. I was a glass half empty type of person. And it didn't happen overnight where I just automatically started becoming really happy. It took years. I mean, I've known him for a long, long time. And I would say only within the last 3 years have I started to finally be a glasses half full type person. And I think that says a lot about him. And I'm in no way promoting him you need to go to work with My Odyssey. I'm just letting you know that change is possible. And if you are a glasses half empty type person, just understand that if you want to be a glasses half full, you can get there. But if you always see the glasses half empty all the time, you're probably not going to get to that point without a little bit of change.
Yeah, for sure.
So you have to be willing and open to make that change. And that is what Nick is really good at. He's good at getting you to see the glasses half full.
Oh, that was very nice. Yes, I have seen a change in you. I felt it.
Aw.
And then I put a ring on it. I was like, yeah, I'll marry this one.
Right. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. Any last minute words?
Come to the blue belt ceremony. Purple belt ceremony. Or whatever. Come see us at a new belt. Come to the camp. Come hang out with us. Come roll with us. Mm-hmm. It'll be a good time. We love you all.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be a different color next week.